The handcuffs bit into Major Elena Cruz's wrists. Cold steel, professionally applied, double locked to prevent shimming. Her arms were pulled behind her back, chain threaded through a metal ring, bolted to the concrete wall, ankles zip-tied to the chair legs. No mobility, no leverage, exactly where her captors wanted her. "Comfortable?" asked Mateo Vega, circling her like a predator, savoring the moment. His voice carried the confident cruelty of someone who thought he'd won. Behind him, 3 more men watched. Diego Santos cleaning his knife, Carlos Ruiz checking the detonator timer on the wall, and Miguel Torres monitoring the security feeds showing empty corridors in this abandoned Cold War bunker deep beneath Fort Hood. Elena said nothing, just kept her breathing steady, her eyes down. Let them think she was scared. Let them think the handcuffs meant something. Let them believe that capturing a special activities operative actually made her helpless. Because in about 12 minutes, when that bomb timer hit 0 and this entire bunker complex detonated, these 4 cartel operatives were going to learn a lesson about underestimating quiet professionals. But before we show you what happens when highly trained soldiers turn the tables on their captors, make sure you're subscribed and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Because what unfolds in this bunker will prove that sometimes getting captured is exactly what you need to do to win. 72 hours earlier, Fort Hood, Texas. Colonel Sarah Mitchell slid classified photos across the table in the secure briefing room. Elena studied them carefully. Fort Hood soldiers, American uniforms, American faces. But something was wrong in their eyes. Los Zetas, Colonel Mitchell said flatly. Cartel operatives who've infiltrated the base. We believe they're planning something big, but we don't know what or when. Standard security sweeps haven't identified them because they have real military credentials, real backgrounds, real training. Someone very high up is helping them. How many? Elena asked. At least 4 confirmed, possibly more. They've been accessing restricted areas, mapping security protocols, gathering intelligence on base defenses and weapon storage. What's the objective? Unknown. But Los Zetas doesn't infiltrate a U.S. military base for reconnaissance. They're planning an attack or a theft, something that requires inside access. Elena studied the photos more carefully. 4 men, all assigned to different units, all with clean records, all perfectly positioned to move freely around the base without suspicion. I need to infiltrate their network, Elena said. Get close enough to identify their objective and their timeline. That's why you're here. Your cover, Major Elena Cruz, newly assigned to base security, conducting routine facility audits. It gives you access to everywhere while appearing completely legitimate. And when I identify the cell, you call in the cavalry. We arrest them, secure the base, and dismantle whatever operation they're planning. Simple plan, clean execution. Except Elena knew from experience that simple plans rarely survived contact with the enemy. Day 3 of the operation, Elena had identified the cell's meeting pattern. Every 3rd night, after midnight, in the abandoned bunker complex beneath the old motor pool. The bunkers dated back to the 1960s, built during the Cold War for ammunition storage and fallout shelters. Officially decommissioned, officially empty. Unofficially the perfect place for cartel operatives to plan without surveillance. Elena positioned herself in the shadows outside Bunker 7, watching through thermal imaging as 4 heat signatures gathered inside. She'd brought recording equipment, planning to document their meeting, identify their objective, then extract and report. But something felt wrong. The way they'd positioned themselves wasn't casual. It was tactical, covering angles, watching approaches, like they were expecting someone. The realization hit too late. "Don't move," said a voice behind her. Cold metal pressed against the base of her skull. A gun barrel. Elena's mind raced through options. Fight, run, comply. She'd trained for this. Capture, escape, survive. But she needed information first. Needed to understand their plan before dismantling it. So she made a choice that went against every tactical instinct. She surrendered. Hands up. Slowly. Elena raised her hands. The recording equipment was stripped away. Hands searched her efficiently, finding her sidearm, her backup weapon, her radio. Professional work. Inside, the voice commanded. They marched her into the bunker. Concrete walls, minimal lighting, the smell of damp and decay. The four men she'd been tracking stood waiting. Mateo Vega stepped forward, mid-30s, dead eyes, the bearing of someone who'd killed before and would kill again. "Major Cruz," he said, reading her name tape. "You've been very curious about our activities, asking questions, accessing files, following us." Elena said nothing. "You're CID. OSI. Doesn't matter." He gestured to Diego. "Secure her." They forced her into a metal chair. Someone produced handcuffs, military-grade restraints, not the cheap civilian kind. Her wrists were pulled behind the chair back, cuffed together, then chained to a metal ring in the wall. Zip ties secured her ankles to the chair legs. Professional, thorough, no mistakes, except they'd made one critical error. They thought capturing her meant they'd won. "Let's talk about what you know," Vega said, pulling up a chair to sit facing her. "Who sent you? Who else knows about us?" Elena assessed the situation. 4 hostiles, all armed. Vega carried a Glock 19. Santos had a knife and a backup pistol. Ruiz was focused on something at a workbench against the far wall, something with wires and a digital display. Torres monitored security screens. The bunker itself was maybe 25 feet square. Concrete everywhere. Single reinforced door. No windows. 2 overhead lights. And that workbench where Ruiz was working on what looked like a bomb. C4 blocks, detonators, a timer display currently showing 1847, 1846, 1845. Her blood went cold. "I'm base security," Elena said, playing her cover. "I saw unauthorized access to restricted areas. I was investigating. I don't know what you're talking about." "You're lying." Vega leaned closer. "But it doesn't matter anymore." "In." He checked his watch. 18 minutes. This bunker and the 3 others beneath the motor pool will detonate. The explosion will trigger the fuel depot directly above us. Fort Hood will have the worst training accident in its history. Hundreds dead, billions in damage. And while America mourns and investigates, Los Zetas will execute Phase 2 operations along the border without interference. "You're terrorists," Elena said, letting shock color her voice. "You'll never get away with this." "We're already getting away with it. We've been on this base for 8 months. We have access codes, security protocols, escape routes. When the bombs detonate, we'll be 50 miles away with perfect alibis." "And me?" Vega smiled. "You become a tragic casualty. Wrong place, wrong time. Just another name on the memorial wall." He stood. "Diego, Carlos, finish the preparations. Miguel, one more security sweep. I want to confirm no one followed our curious major here." The men dispersed to their tasks. Elena was left chained to the chair, watching the timer count down. 17:22, 17:21, 17:20. Now or never. Elena had a secret her captors didn't know about. During her training with CIA Special Activities Division, she'd learned that the most dangerous part of any infiltration wasn't getting caught. It was being unprepared when you got caught. So she'd developed a habit: never go into a hostile environment without a backup plan hidden where enemies wouldn't think to search. In her right boot, tucked into a custom-sewn pocket between the leather and the lining, was a handcuff shim. Thin, flexible metal about the size of a small paperclip. Useless for picking locks. Perfect for defeating handcuffs. The problem, getting to it while handcuffed behind her back and chained to a wall. She tested her range of motion. The handcuffs were tight, but had maybe an inch of play. The chain had some slack, about 6 inches. Her ankles were immobile, but her upper body could lean forward slightly. Not much, but maybe enough. 1634, 1633, 1632. Elena began working. Small movements, nothing that would attract attention while the men prepared their escape. She leaned forward as far as the chain allowed, creating slack in the handcuffs. Her hands worked against the metal ring, using it as a fulcrum to rotate her wrists. The cuffs bit deeper, drawing blood, but she gained another half-inch of movement. Her fingers stretched down toward her waist, toward where her boot top would be, if she could just reach a little further. "What are you doing?" Santos asked, looking over from where he was packing equipment. Elena froze. "Nothing. The cuffs are cutting off circulation. I'm trying to adjust." He walked over, grabbed the chain, yanked it tight. Pain shot through Elena's shoulders. "No adjusting. Sit still." He returned to his packing. 1547, 1546, 1545. Elena waited 30 seconds, then resumed working. More subtle this time. Micro movements while appearing motionless. Her fingers brushed the top of her boot. So close. She angled her body, gained another inch, and her fingertips found the slight ridge where the hidden pocket began. She hooked a finger into the seam, felt the metal shim. Pulled. It came free. 1452, 1451, 1450. The shim was in her hand now, thin, flexible, almost invisible. She rotated it between her fingers, feeling for the proper angle. Handcuffs work on a simple ratchet mechanism. Push the shim into the gap between the cuff and the locking mechanism. Apply pressure and the ratchet releases. Simple in theory. Harder when your hands are behind your back and 4 armed men are 15 feet away. Elena worked by feel. She found the gap in the left cuff, inserted the shim, pressed. The ratchet clicked. The cuff loosened, not released, but loose enough to give her hand more room. She repeated the process on the right cuff. 1328, 1327, 1326. Both cuffs were now loose enough that she could rotate her wrists freely, but she was still chained to the wall, still zip-tied to the chair. She'd gained mobility, but not freedom. Status. Vega said, checking his phone. "Charges armed," Ruiz reported. "All 4 bunkers linked. Timer synchronized. 13 minutes to detonation. Escape route. Clear. Torres confirmed cameras are looped. No patrols scheduled in this sector until 0400. Then we're done here." Vega looked at Elena. "Shame you won't see what we've built, but your sacrifice serves a greater purpose." They began moving toward the door, taking their equipment, leaving her behind with the bomb. This was it. Her window. "Wait," Elena said, "before you go. Answer one question." Vega paused at the door. "Why would I do that?" "Professional courtesy." "Soldier to soldier. How did you know I was investigating you?" Vega smiled. "Because you are too perfect. Too thorough. Real base security doesn't check manifest logs from 6 months ago. Doesn't cross-reference maintenance schedules with access badge records. You investigated like someone looking for something specific. That made you either very smart or very dangerous. We decided not to take chances, so you laid a trap. We laid several. You walked into the right one. One more question." "No more questions. We have a schedule." He stepped toward the door. "The person helping you, the one who gave you military credentials, access codes, security protocols, who is it?" Vega's smile widened. "That would be telling, but don't worry. You'll never need to know." They walked out. The heavy door swung shut. A lock clicked. Elena was alone with the timer. 11:43, 11:42, 11:41. The moment the door closed, Elena moved. She pulled her hands through the loosened handcuffs. The metal scraped skin, drew blood, but her hands were free. The chain was still attached to the cuffs, limiting her range, but she had mobility now. She reached down, hands finding the zip ties on her ankles, pulled. The plastic was thick, industrial grade, not breaking with strength alone. She needed a tool. Her eyes scanned the bunker, the workbench where Ruiz had assembled the bomb, tools scattered across its surface. But between her and the bench, 15 feet of distance in a chain that gave her maybe 8 feet of range. She pulled against the chain. The metal ring in the wall was old, corroded, not budging. 1038, 1037, 1036. Different approach. Elena examined the chair. Old metal, heavy, but the welds were compromised by age and moisture. She rocked it backward, testing its limits. The front legs lifted. She threw her weight forward, then backward again, harder. The chair rocked. One weld groaned. Again, harder. The right rear leg separated from the frame with a metallic snap. Elena grabbed the broken leg. 3 feet of jagged metal. Not ideal, but functional. She used it to saw through the zip ties on her ankles. The plastic resisted, then suddenly gave. Her legs were free. 9:22, 9:21, 9:20. She stood, still chained to the wall by the handcuffs, but mobile within her 8-foot radius. The door was reinforced steel. No breaking through it without tools she didn't have. The walls were concrete, solid. The only option, the bomb itself. If she couldn't escape the bunker, maybe she could disarm the device. Elena moved to the workbench, chain rattling behind her. The bomb was sophisticated. 4 separate charges of C4, each with its own detonator, all linked to a central timer. Cut one wire and the failsafe would probably trigger immediate detonation. She wasn't an explosive ordnance disposal specialist, but she'd had basic training. Enough to know that bombs this complex usually had a manual disarm code. She examined the timer unit, digital display, numeric keypad, a small LCD screen showing, armed, 0847. Below the timer, a 4-digit code input. If she entered the wrong code, instant detonation. If she entered the right code, disarm. 4 digits, 10,000 possible combinations, less than 9 minutes. The math was impossible, unless 8:15, 8:14, 8:13. Elena thought about what Vega had said. We've been on this base for 8 months. 8 months. What if the code related to their operation timeline? She tried dates. The month they arrived, the month they planned to attack. Nothing. 7:43, 7:42. 741. Think. What would cartel operatives use as a code? Something meaningful but not obvious. Los Zetas. Zeta is the 6th letter of the Greek alphabet. Z is the 26th letter of the English alphabet. She tried. 0626. The screen flashed red. Invalid. 1 attempt used. Most military devices allowed 3 tries before lockout or detonation. 708. 707, 706. Different angle. Vega had mentioned Phase 2 operations. What if the code referenced that? Phase 2. 0002. Too simple. She thought about cartel structure. Los Zetas organized in cells. 4-man teams, 4 men. Bunker 7. Fort Hood. She tried. April 7th. April 7th. The screen flashed red. Invalid. 2 attempts used, 1 left. 622, 621, 620. Elena's hands were shaking. 1 more wrong entry and the bomb detonated immediately. Or she could do nothing and let it count down. Either way, she died. Unless... She examined the bomb more carefully. 4 charges, 4 detonators, 1 central timer. What if she didn't disarm it? What if she just disconnected it? She traced the wires from the timer to the first detonator, color-coded, red, black, yellow, green, standard military demolition setup. Cutting the wrong wire would trigger the failsafe. But what if she didn't cut? What if she just unplugged? The connections were pin-style, designed for quick field assembly and disassembly. Elena grabbed the first connector, hesitated. This could trigger the bomb, or it could give her a chance. 547, 5:46, 5:45. She pulled. The connector separated. The timer flickered but kept counting. She moved to the second charge, pulled that connector. Timer still counting. Third charge, fourth charge, all disconnected. The timer showed 5, 12, 5, 11, 5, 10. But the charges were no longer linked. The bomb couldn't detonate without detonators connected. She'd bought herself time, but she was still locked in a bunker with limited air and 4 cartel operatives who believed she was dead in 5 minutes. Elena moved back to the door, examined the lock. Military grade, but old. The bunker dated to the 1960s. The lock mechanism was probably original. She still had the handcuff shim, not designed for picking locks. But maybe. She inserted the shim into the keyhole, felt for the pins. Old locks had fewer security features, simpler mechanisms. She worked carefully. 1 pin, 2 pins, 3, 4, 03, 402, 401. The 4th pin stuck. She applied pressure, felt it give, then the shim bent. Damn. The timer counted down. Elena pulled the broken shim out. It was useless now. She needed another tool. The broken chair leg. Metal jagged edge. She jammed it into the door frame where the lock met the strike plate. Used it as a lever, pulled with all her strength. The old metal groaned. The wood frame around the strike plate began to splinter. 318, 317, 316. She pulled harder. Sweat dripped despite the cold. Her shoulders screamed. The chain still attached to her handcuffs bit into her wrists. The door frame cracked. The strike plate shifted. One more pull. The frame gave way. The door swung open. Elena stumbled into the corridor, dragging the chain, still handcuffed, but free of the room. 244, 243, 242. She ran. The bunker complex was a maze of corridors. She'd studied the blueprints during prep. Exit was 200 feet east, up 2 levels through the old ammunition storage section. She ran, chain clanging, lungs burning. Behind her in Bunker 7, the timer continued counting. 158, 157, 156. Would they notice it hadn't detonated? Would they come back to check? Elena reached the stairs, climbed. Her legs burned. The handcuffs and chain made every movement awkward, but she pushed through. Upper level, main corridor, exit door ahead, 122, 121, 120. She hit the exit door, locked from the outside. Of course. But this door was newer, the lock was modern, and she was out of time and options. Elena backed up 10 feet, sprinted, hit the door with her shoulder. Pain exploded through her arm. The door shuddered but held. Again. 047, 046, 045. The door gave way. She stumbled out into the night air. The motor pool. Fort Hood sleeping around her under pre-dawn darkness. She ran toward the nearest building. Needed distance. Needed cover. 018, 017, 016. Behind her, nothing happened. The bomb wasn't connected, but Vega didn't know that. Elena ducked behind a vehicle, caught her breath, assessed. She was free. Injured, but functional. Still handcuffed, but alive. And somewhere on this base, 4 cartel operatives thought they'd just killed her and were about to discover their bomb had failed. Time to turn the tables. Elena made her way to the nearest guard post. The MP on duty saw her coming. Bloody wrists, handcuffs dangling, uniform torn. "Ma'am, are you—" "Major Elena Cruz, I need you to contact Colonel Mitchell immediately. Code Red. We have hostile operatives on base." The MP grabbed his radio. Within 2 minutes, alarms were sounding. Within 5, a team of security forces was mobilizing. Within 10, Elena was in Colonel Mitchell's office, medics treating her wrists while she debriefed. "They'll try to leave the base," Elena said. "They think the bomb's detonated. They'll use the chaos as cover. All gates are locked down," Colonel Mitchell confirmed. "No one leaves without authorization." They have authorization. They're military personnel with valid credentials. Then we check everyone. Every vehicle, every person, every ID. They'll be in the vehicle convoy that responds to the explosion. Hiding among first responders. Mitchell nodded. We'll be ready. 2 hours later, as dawn broke over Fort Hood, 4 men in military uniform sat in a security holding cell. Mateo Vega, Diego Santos, Carlos Ruiz, Miguel Torres, arrested at the East Gate trying to leave base in a response vehicle. When Major Elena Cruz walked into the interrogation room, wrists bandaged but eyes clear, Vega's face went pale. "Impossible," he whispered. "You were chained." "The bomb failed," Elena finished, "because I disarmed it, because I escaped, because you made the same mistake everyone makes, thinking handcuffs meant you'd won." She sat down across from him. "You searched me for weapons, not for tools. The shim was in my boot. That and training. That's all I needed." "The bomb should have killed you," Ruiz said. "Should have. Didn't. I disconnected every detonator. Your timer counted down to nothing. 48 hours later, the 4 cartel operatives were in federal custody. The investigation had revealed their entire network. 6 more infiltrators on 3 different bases, all arrested simultaneously. Colonel Mitchell looked at Elena. "You walked into a trap intentionally. That's either brilliant or insane." "It's effective," Elena replied. "I needed to identify their full operation. The only way was to get inside their cell." "You almost died." "Almost, but I didn't, because I was prepared for capture, because restraints only work on people who don't know how to defeat them." Elena stood. "The lesson isn't that I'm special. It's that Special Forces operators are trained for situations where normal people would give up. We're trained to escape and eliminate threats, even when it looks impossible. That's the job." Mitchell extended her hand. "Well done, Major. I did my job." And 4 cartel operatives learned that binding someone doesn't mean you've beaten them. In federal prison, Mateo Vega replayed that moment when Elena walked in, alive, free, victorious. They'd had every advantage: handcuffs, chains, a bomb, and she'd still won. "How?" Diego asked. "Because we captured her body," Vega said quietly. "But we never touched her training, her resolve. Those don't stop working because you put handcuffs on someone. We see handcuffs as the end. She sees them as a minor obstacle." Miguel spoke up. "We were never fighting her. We were fighting everything that made her. You can't beat that with handcuffs." Vega nodded. "We delayed her for 20 minutes. Cost us the rest of our lives. Somewhere in Fort Hood, Elena Cruz ran her morning PT. The scars would fade. But the lesson remained, carved into the memories of 4 men who learned what every enemy eventually learns. Special Forces operators don't stay captured because handcuffs can bind wrists, chains can limit movement, walls can contain bodies, but none of it can cage the human will when that will has been forged through impossible training and sharpened by the knowledge that giving up is never an option. They thought capturing her was the end. For Elena Cruz, it was just another Tuesday. And the handcuffs, they were always part of the plan. If this story inspired you, subscribe to Shadowed Glory Stories for more incredible military operations. Drop a comment. What would you hide if you knew capture was coming? Stay strong.